TGR News, broadcasting from the State of Israel.
Welcome back to TGR News.
Hello, hello.
This week was Tesha Be'Av, the day of remembering of the fall of the first and second temple. This is symbolic of what the left wing is doing today, all these protesters and everything. And the IDF has become a part of some kind of military coup. We will talk about all this and more, but first, let's say thank you. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. It is such a blessing. We talk about it every week, and it is so important to me, it's important that you feel how wonderful it is to be able to feed these people with your support here in the state of Israel. These hungry Israeli families with children that they're in such bad shape and need your help. And it's such a blessing to be able to be a part of it, coming from a group of believers, to be able to witness to them in such a beautiful way. It is so wonderful. We appreciate it so much, and they appreciate it so much. And it's such a wonderful thing we're doing here in the name of Jesus. Like we always say, that if you haven't yet, you want to be, there's ways to be a part of this ministry by links underneath of all of our videos to the Patreon page and to the Support Us page. Or you could just go to thegoldenreport.com and go to the Support Us page there and find whichever way suits best for you. So God bless you, and thank you so much for everything you guys do here. Yeah. Well, let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it. This week on Monday, the coalition passed through the cancellation of the Probable Cause Law. This was a law that allowed the Supreme Court to randomly decide to cancel laws that the Knesset passed if they didn't like it. Only after this ridiculous law was stopped can the government start to take back control and allow the voters to decide who makes our decision.
Yes, that's so true.
It was, like you said, like we said, it was ridiculous law.
Yes.
Ridiculous law that Aaron Barak, the Supreme Court leader for more than 20 years ago,
yes,
started this laws.
Yeah, and had it passed during his time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. It basically gave the Supreme Court the ability to decide, not the people that the politicians that the people of the state of Israel voted in to decide for them. The people who the average voter in the state of Israel has no power over who these people are because they pick themselves. They could decide what laws and not laws to be due. Israel could pass.
Yeah.
Just because that's how they felt about it.
Just one of the
That was what the law said, just how they felt about it.
Just few of the examples that with this probable cause law, the court cancel the Knesset decisions and laws. One of them is, for example, that allowed BDS leader to come to Israel and have special prize from the state of Israel for his contribution. BDS. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Of course,
our Supreme Court allowed that.
Yeah. And other things like salaries for the terrorist families, salaries for terrorist support their families. Of course, our Knesset decided not to give them salaries because it's pay for slave.
It's pay for terrorism.
Yeah. But Supreme Court decide it's not humanized, so it's not with it's just the judge decide. The judge say it's not.
That's just some examples of what this law is good.
Yeah.
Why it's so good that we finally got it canceled.
Cancel it.
And the Supreme Court is supposed to have a meeting about it in September, they said.
Yeah.
To see if they're going to allow this law to pass, because in theory, they still have that power until they recognize this law that takes away that power. Yeah. So it's a little catch-22 here. Hopefully, we won't find ourselves in some kind of ridiculous loop of law here, but we'll see. Hopefully, that'll work out. On Sunday night, the night before the law was scheduled to pass in the Knesset, both the left and right-wing voters went out to protest this time. It hasn't happened much in the past 7 months. But the right-wing voters protested in support of the coalition to pass this law and the other laws too, but this one in particular because that's the night that they were going to do it. While the left protested against, as usual, this time the left protested in Jerusalem in front of the Knesset, while the right-wing voters protested in Tel Aviv, where the left-wing usually protested.
Yeah.
And it was large numbers. I would say almost the same.
I think it was the same.
Yeah. If you watch left-wing news media, they said that the left-wing protesters was a great big number and the right-wing protesters was a little number.
62,000 when it was like 200 or
And
something.
if you watch right-wing, that was the opposite. They gave a huge...
Yeah.
But it's
Somewhere in the middle.
You can see the videos. It's about the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the same amount of people. But I was so happy to see that the right-wing voters will go out and support. And also, I'm happy to see that they don't go out and protest like the left wing does for the past 7, almost 8 months now. I'm happy to see that they only come out when it counts, and not all the time, every time, just making the country go into this chaotic loop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That just leave that kind of nonsense to the left wing voters. Right. That's not what we do.
Yeah, exactly. This Wednesday was Tesha Be'Av, or the 9th day of the month Av in Hebrew. This is a day of fasting and remembering the fall of the temple, which, by the way, in Jewish tradition fell because of a Jewish civil war, much like what is going on now between the left and right wings, making this Tesha Be'Av symbolic of the political situation, the state of Israel, as well as the biblical meaning.
Yeah, well, the biblical Jewish meaning, because we know the real reason why the second temple fell. They didn't. So the Jewish people still don't believe about the Yeshua, so they haven't realized a lot of things there. But it's interesting that in the Jewish belief, they believe that it was hatred between each other, between the Israelites, the nation of Israel, or the state of Israel, or however you want to call it, back in the first and second temple, is what caused them to fall. Right? Especially the second temple is what they believe, and it's exactly what's happening now.
Yeah, they believe that the first temple fell because of the how you say when you're working for another gods.
Yeah, paganism and everything else. Yeah. But the second one was because of hatred and civil war.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very symbolic. It was very. So a lot of places were using it to make a point of some sort this year because usually it's a day of fasting, so all the restaurants are closed, and some restaurants are opened up anyway, just on purpose.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, I heard Yair Lapid make a speech and ask the soldiers that are attempting a military coup to wait and see if the Supreme Court will cancel this government's decision over this probable cause law before they stop serving and fighting for the state of Israel. This is the real danger to our democracy and not the judicial reform, like the left-wing voters believe. This military coup that the left wing is trying to put together is the attack on democracy.
Yeah, this is exactly. I'm happy that the cancellation of this ridiculous law passed, but I'm even happier that it passed because, or despite all the reservist
threats and everything.
Threats and stuff, because it was important that we pass it and show them we're not.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah,
because if we didn't have passed it, then that would have meant the military coup worked. The soldiers in the military were able to tell the government what to do, and that is a military coup. So you're right. So the fact that it passed anyway was the fight against the military coup, which is the fight against democracy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And these left-wing protesters, they're out there saying, democracy all the time, right? Demokratia in Hebrew. That's what they're chanting. Like they're fighting for democracy when they're the ones destroying the democracy.
Yeah.
But this is the same thing happening everywhere in the world now. It's so, it's just, I know everyone watching this can understand what we're talking about. Just in some places, it's the opposite between the left and the right wing.
Yeah.
The commanding chief of the IDF made a speech speaking to the same pilots and the military personnel that are not serving anymore because of their beliefs about the judicial reform. The commanding chief said that even though you came to your decision with a heavy heart, the IDF needs you. Well, I couldn't disagree with him more from what he said. First of all, we don't need the IDF. He says that the IDF needs us. The IDF doesn't need us. We need the IDF.
Yeah.
Right. And the second anyway that believes that his or her opinion is more important than following orders in the military should be put in jail for disobeying orders. You know, it's just. I wish we had our old commanding chief. They just changed. This guy doesn't seem to be on the ball, because to say that to these deserters,
yeah,
that's what they are. To these deserters, that I know you come to your decision in a heavy heart. Please don't do it. IDF needs you. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you
know,
know,
it's so sad.
Lately, many people in Israel do comparison between the Hitnat Coup, which was when we moved from Gaza and surrounding areas. We took 8,600 Jews out, expelled them from their homes. We left greenhouse behind them, and then right away
gave it to the Arabs, and that's where Gaza is now.
Gaza and Hamas took over.
Of course.
But many Israelis compare this time in 2005 to what's going on now. And first of all, it's not equal at all.
Of course not.
Because they just thinking that judicial reform will do
some sort of harm.
They think it may happen. So they decide not to obey the law.
Right.
But we knew that they're going to expel us.
We were talking about taking people out of their homes.
And even then, back then, soldiers had to go in and sometimes expel their own families from where they live. Some of the soldiers was doing this. It's like Shiva. It's like they're mourning.
Like when someone dies.
They're mourning really badly, but they did it anyway.
Yeah.
And it was a real trauma for people.
Yeah, it was.
And I can understand that some people really scared for democracy, and they really believe, left wing, believe that democracy can end, but still it's not the same.
No, it's not.
It's
definitely not the same.
Yeah.
Well, during all of this, Netanyahu has been going through some medical issues. After a day in the sun with his wife, Sarah, while he was resting at home, he passed out and hit his head. Netanyahu told the public that it was nothing, but he actually was in the process of getting a pacemaker for his heart. In my opinion, I can definitely understand why during this time, while the left wing is weakening our military position in the Middle East, he would not want to look weak externally. Plus, I can completely understand how much pressure he probably seems to be under at this time as well. You know, it's crazy what's going on. And the left wing, because Netanyahu and his press group didn't lead on and sort of lied about the situation until everything was okay. They try to use this as some kind of, oh, look, see, he's a liar, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
and you
have to look at the big picture.
Yeah, and I have to give him that. Benjamin Netanyahu, after a few hours, just after he had this procedure with his heart, put a suit on, went into the Knesset and voted.
Yep.
And, you know,
for what he believed was right for the state of Israel.
Yeah. Strong leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll still have our usual problems during this insanity. Just this week, Erdogan in Turkey hosted a meeting between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. This meeting, to make Abu Mazen from the Palestinian Authority allow Hamas to continue and grow in the Palestinian areas while agreeing to recognize the Palestinian authority's authority.
Yeah.
This is bad for Israel.
That's very bad. That's a tongue twister. The Palestinians' authority. To recognize their authority.
The authority.
Of the Palestinian authority.
Authority.
Yeah, it's real bad for Israel. It's ridiculous too. And the things, it's like Hamas, you know, the Palestinian Authority is in place sort of like to play games with the state of Israel, to act like they're, you know, to come so that to play games so that the rest of the world will look like, oh, look at the Palestinians in Israel. Israel should give the Palestinians land for the two-state solution and everything. So they play this game like they arrest people and they put, like they're in control, and anybody who is a threat to them or to Israel, they, like a normal country would arrest them and put them in jail and stuff. So we know that all of our terrorists come out of the Palestinian Authority areas and all of everything. So we know it's a joke. But they do have some people from Hamas, because the Palestinian Authority and Hamas aren't getting along.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. If they find any Hamas agents sort of like spying in their organizations, they arrest them.
Yeah.
So Hamas is asking the Palestinian Authority or Abu Mazen to release their prisoners and allow them to grow and to recruit and everything else, and work together. And Turkey's working very hard to get them to do this. If they do that, it's just our enemies joining forces against us is all that is.
Yeah. Right now it don't look like it. I hope they don't, because Abu Mazen not gonna release. That's what he say. Not
It
gonna
would
release
make
the
him
prisoner.
look weak.
Yeah, and Ismail Haniya, which is the leader
Hamas.
of Hamas, said that without that they won't join.
There's no talk.
No
basically.
talk. But they will meet again, so we'll see what's going to happen with that.
If the leader of Hamas could find the Palestinian Authority a way to be able to do it without losing face, without losing some of their authority in the area, they probably would go for it.
Yeah.
Also, Hezbollah is trying to push their luck on the northern Lebanon border. Hezbollah soldiers are coming right up to the Israeli border and making patrols, as well as even stopping to have lunch. This is a clear escalation because of our enemy's believes us to be weak now in light of the protests in Israel and everything else that's going on. This is it's just getting things are heating up, and our enemies are pushing the boundaries a little bit because of it. I think if all of this keeps going on the way it is, it will escalate the timeline of when a war would come with Lebanon or Syria or or Gaza again.
Yeah. Well, from one hand, I'm thinking why we don't just show them, just scare them away, and we don't disagree this treatment of our close to our border.
Right.
But from the other hand, I understand until they really touch the border, touch the fence, we cannot do anything. Yeah, and we did when they tried to harm the fence. We
we showed you that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's politically we cannot start a war.
Yeah, because they're pushing the limits.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a moment to recognize the IDF is still doing its job during this tough time, both because of the protests and, of course, we are still in a time with escalating attacks from terrorists all over the country. This week, the IDF has gone in and taken out terrorist cells and arrested dozens of terrorists. On Wednesday alone, the IDF arrested 32. So even though the left-wing protesters have gone completely crazy, Israel is still working. They haven't been able to break the state of Israel yet, even though they seem to be trying very hard.
Yeah.
So, so we do need to take a moment and recognize the IDF's been working and doing their jobs while terrorist attacks have been continuing and rockets from Judea and Samaria. Yesterday.
Another one. They're small. They don't fly far away, just few meters, but still, it's.
But they're getting better and better. They're learning.
Yeah.
They're building. They're becoming better and better. That's they're practicing.
They also have tunnels that
they found tunnels also with all the stuff that the IDF's been doing in Jenin. The tunnels and rockets sounds like Hamas in Gaza, don't it? Tunnels and rockets.
I don't know why we stopped in Jenin. We have to continue. I don't like.
We will.
Yeah, I hope so.
We will. Well, you got anything else you want to add?
No, not this week.
Okay. Well, don't forget to join us on thegoldenreport.com. And until next week.
Shabbat shalom.
God bless.